afternoon. Welcome to today's episode of Infinite Musician Television. I'm your host, Dan Weiss, creator and founder of M-File Music Theory and Songwriting, where we're all about helping you gain control of your creative power and passion, making an impact with your music by creating the music that you hear in your head. Today is the first day that it hasn't been like 36 degrees in like 6 weeks. So still kind of hot under the lights, but it's just been really nice getting an actual breeze through the house. We're finally a bit relieved. But yeah, we've got a great show for you today. We've got part 2 of our very long and informative interview with Adam Carter, talking a bit more about working together, putting on shows, and talking a bit about the uncertain future that seems to lay before everybody in the music industry and kind of what we have to do to adapt. Which, you know, it's not like it's like doom and gloom. We know what we need to do. We're very resourceful people as it is, you know, so creative people always know how to solve problems. We're gonna be fine. We're also gonna talk about scale degrees, what they are, what you can do with them, how they can help your understanding of music, both making melodies, navigating improvisational situations, and coming up with chord progressions. And I think probably some other stuff. I don't know. Who cares? But we're going to start off with a little story like we usually do. This one, sort of music related. More so, I'm going to talk a bit about the business of M-File. I put a lot of emphasis on, you know, figuring out your values, coming up with a mission, you know, finding out what drives you as a person and using that to elevate your music, elevate yourself as a musician, and to find the people that you want to be speaking not just to, but for, right? That's the mission. Giving people a voice. So that was a big turning point when I kind of started coming back to a lot of that and remembering, like, this is what I want to do it for. That was a big moment, a watershed moment for me in my business. Because there was a lot of clarity that kind of came with that. And I feel like it finally unlocked the beginnings of what it was that I was trying to do. So going all the way back, you know, starting this business, we're coming up on 3 years since I had the original idea to start M-File. The business idea kind of popped into my head. I was going around through all my notes. You know, I've showed you the picture of all my notes from school, and I was trying to go through and organize everything and put it in a way that I could combine all these different lessons and get to the heart of what I needed to be practicing every day, trying to figure out a solid practice routine. And it took days to go through all these different things and try and link lessons together so that I could be the most efficient at my practicing. And then it was like, you know, fuck, I'm having such a problem with all of this. Like, this took so long. If only there was something that did all of this for me already. And ping, light bulb moment came up. And I was like, I'm going to build a website where I can have this stuff. I should be putting this stuff out there. I have so much knowledge in this giant binder that I should be sharing with people. And that was like the moment, right? So it's evolved quite a bit, but, you know, starting that process of, okay, I'm going to figure out curriculums and music theory, and I'm gonna figure out ways that I can get it. There was an original TV show idea that I still haven't tossed away, but it was almost like teaching music theory in a way that was very silly, almost like a Pee-wee's Playhouse style thing, but not for kids. Like, make it engaging and silly and weird and wacky so that people are invested beyond just dry music theory. That was a big thing. And we had a baby on the way, and things were really turbulent, and there was a lot of struggle that had to go, and it was on and off for a very long time. But I talked to so many musicians, especially guitar players. Guitar players are bad for not learning music theory. But I saw so many people who were self-taught, and they were really good. Excuse me, sorry. They were really good, and they would get to a point where they would plateau, and they would stall. I thought I saw... Oh, it's a flicker. I thought I saw a huge cat buzz on me, but anyway, sorry. Very easily distractible. I'm an excitable boy. ADHD. But I saw so many people who were self-taught getting to a point where they stall with their music and their progress because they didn't learn theory, or they only understood a little bit, and they never had those foundations. So they would be stuck, and they would see somebody like myself play and be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, this is all like really simple stuff in my mind. And I'm like, oh, but I've been playing for 20 years and I've been learning all this for years, and I needed to kind of go back to when I was first trying to figure it out, and having those amazing, like, opening the Ark of the Covenant and having the light shine and get my face melted by all this knowledge. I needed to go back to that and bridge that gap between beginner who's no longer beginner. They've put a lot of that aside, but they're not an expert, and they want to progress, and they don't know how. They're hitting their head on the ceiling. So I needed to find a way to bridge that gap so people could free themselves from that trap. Give them the tools to become the musicians they are supposed to be, creating the music they hear in their head. It's not just a smooth catchphrase to get you to buy cola beverages from me. Like, that's my mission. Being able to hear what you have in your head and making it happen, that's a big leap. But when you can do that, you're free. It's true freedom. You can create the music you hear in your head, and you make it happen, and it's the best. That's the ultimate goal as a musician, right? So, starting a business and developing new ideas, it's really hard, especially something that's kind of abstract like this. I started learning basic JavaScripting to try website prototypes for testing music theory. That's still coming, by the way. There is a lot of testing website stuff that we are going to put together in the near future, so stay tuned for that. But building those prototypes and learning the basics of how to randomize testing, that was insane. I started with zero knowledge, and I had to just keep going on forums and figuring things out and getting a lot of runaround and non-answers from people, or just being straight up ignored because I was a beginner. And for every solution that I found, there was always like 3 new problems that would come up. And, feel free to liken this situation to any struggle of trying to develop something new, or even learning your instrument. Every time you figure something out, you suddenly realize that there's like 3 more things. A solution always has 3 more problems. And it just keeps growing. It's like the Hydra heads, right? But I was constantly doubting myself if I had the ability to do this. I would be like working like an absolute madman to try and figure this stuff out. And I'd stay up all night, and I would just be at the computer, and then I would hit a wall, and I'd just be like, I don't think I can do this. This is just a waste of time. I wasn't sure if any of the ideas would take off. Like, I'm working so hard in this and it's becoming an obsession, and I'm thinking like, does anybody even really want this? Like, that's that's the reality of any business owner. You can get so blinded by your excitement for an idea, but is anybody going to pay for it? Is anybody going to be as excited as you? And above all that, I felt really selfish working on my ideas for my business and my music and helping other people, and not something else, like for my family. Like I was like a man possessed, and then I'd look and realize like, oh, I've been on the computer for 2 weeks, and like I need to kind of step away and take a break. And it was hard spending any time on this project because like new baby and the kids and Justine and everything. Like I would feel like if I'm not giving time to them, then what am I doing? I'm not a good dad. I'm not a good partner. I'm not a family man. And all these doubts were just creeping in my head. So after all this struggling and everything, and several attempts to get into a business program in school, I finally got accepted into business school, a small business and entrepreneurship program, which is very specialized because it's not just like, oh, general business. This is about the person that wants to, be a disruptor and start something from the ground up and take a product or a service or whatever and build it for themselves. It was an awesome program. I really loved it. But it was amazing to go there and talk about my ideas and have my ideas validated. Like the meet and greet with the teachers and everything. Okay, what's your thing? And talking about it and seeing like the look. Like, yes, that's great. That's awesome. That reminds me of something like this. And there's programs I can set you up with mentors and talk with people, and everyone was excited. So it was like finally having these ideas validated was so like, oh my god, okay, cool. Actual business people that are running their own businesses like what I'm doing. So I was acing all my classes, my projects, my exams. I formed a ton of great relationships with the peers and the teachers. So lots of good connections and friendships from all of this. Made a ton of progress developing my plan and my business. And then, of course, middle of March, we get hit with the pandemic. Plans are kind of put on hold. We get locked down, having to finish school from home, the works. And obviously, anybody out there knows how hard that's been. And it was kind of like, okay, I gotta focus on the family. I gotta focus on myself, make sure I don't go crazy, because it's stress is a real thing and it can really mess you up. And finishing school and getting my classes done online and everything, there was like 14-hour days. I was just pumping through finishing final projects and everything. And so one of the classes was business planning and funding, and the entire term was a project where you worked on a business plan. You had a couple other people work with you if you wanted, but you could select your own business, and each portion was every 2 weeks or so we would work it out. And this guy, Steven Stunt, incredible professor, and he knows about business. He knows about getting people money and getting funded, and just an incredible dude. Great energy and really funny. First day of class, he kicked me out and told me to fuck off because I brought breakfast in and coffee and I didn't get one for him. So that kind of started a really good relationship. I love the dude, and tons of really good insight. Every 2 weeks or so, I'd get a piece of my business plan back with more advice, how to do this, what to do this, talk more about this. And, you know, so I had this final project and I got really good on it, but there was a lot I needed to revamp, and especially coming up with a lot of things at the core, like I was talking at the beginning, of why I wanted to do the business. It wasn't just about writing some books about music theory. It wasn't just about taking some fairly common knowledge to an intermediate musician and putting it behind a paywall. Like, that's not what I want to sell. I'll be able to sell those things. If you want to get these things from me and take lessons on that kind of stuff from me after we have a real relationship, then yeah, sure. Like, these things will be offered. But the core of the business had to be about the values, the mission, the message, proving to yourself that you can do it. You know, like the mentality of it that I keep talking about, infinite musician mentality. You still got that up here? Yeah. It's upside down for some reason. Like, why? I don't know. I never ever did that. But it's upside down for some strange reason. But there it is. Infinite musician mentality. That program is the center of what I want to do. I want to take people and teach them that you can do this. Like, you can get that music that's in your head, you can hear it, you can have it. So I had to restructure a lot of things, do 2 years worth of financial projections, which if you've ever had to do is insane. Like, how do you guess what your numbers are going to be for 2 years? But a big part of the business plan for school was that it was being done through a specific program, a specific organization, and we would basically have an application to send it in. You could get like $20,000, $40,000, $60,000 in funding for your business. So securing this kind of funding would be insane. Like, obviously money is crazy tight. People are freaking out. And I'm running the business by myself from home with 2 kids running around and a partner who her hair is on fire because she's trying to take care of the kids and school them at home. So, like, we're all on edge all the time. So I need help, obviously. So getting $20,000 in funding would be able to go towards advertising and getting some people to help with scheduling and publishing and, you know, doing all the other stuff, editing videos, so that I can focus on creating solid content, getting all this stuff ready for the show, the podcast, you know, and finish all these courses and these books and all these things and sell them. Get out and be a salesman time, you know, pull out my old frontman persona and just put on a show and get some fucking money coming in for this business that I believe in and I know that people are responding to. People want to be helped in this way because nobody thought of helping them in this way. You go to music lesson, you learn, you know, ABCs and hot cross buns, and it's never like, okay, let's figure out why you're doing this. What's the why behind this? What's your motivation? Having some kind of compass point to guide you. How do you build an audience? How do you make songs that make an impact? Nobody teaches that. So getting this together would be able to keep the business running in a way that wouldn't make me spontaneously combust, to say the least. So I was really nervous about submitting a business plan because asking for 20 grand, that's a lot of fucking money, and it's public money, and I gotta, you know, have everything in a row. And somehow I felt like I wasn't prepared enough, even though I had high marks on the plan and I've been thinking about this for so long and making changes and adjustments. And I spent a couple weeks reworking the plan, running financial projections, all that stuff. I submitted. The mediator was really impressed. She said it was really comprehensive and thorough, and everything looked great. So she put it through to the adjudicators. And here's what they said. So the flagship course, Infinite Musician Mentality, it's not a real music curriculum. And having blogs, podcasts, shows, any news or opinion programming would be too high risk and would therefore disqualify me from receiving any of the money. And here's the kicker. If you remove these elements, you would be eligible for funding. I'll just, dramatic pause. Let the reality of this situation soak in on you guys. So now I'm being told that if I remove the elements of connection with an audience, offering advice and life experience from myself and other people from the industry, and most importantly, the infinite musician mentality, which is the foundation of how I want to change our approaches to music. Like, that is the business. That is M-File. Infinite musician mentality, that's what I want to be teaching, because that's how we change. And so I was being told that if I get rid of that, then I get $20,000 and can fund growing and expanding my business. So it was shocking, to say the least, how cliche of a movie moment this was. Choose your values or choose the money. So I was, I'll be honest, I was in tears when I got that email. I told Justine about it, and I said, it's not even a choice. Like, it's the fact that I have to turn down the money. Because it wasn't about trying to find a way to get around it, defraud an organization, public money, and trying to find a way that I can still teach these things and do these things and get the money. Like, that's not a question. And it's not, well, I'll just sell some theory books. I'll make a website that teaches you stuff that you can learn for free anywhere. Or that, like, literally anybody else is teaching. What's different between me and anybody else? Who cares? Come learn about scales. Come learn about fucking chords and shit. Like, it wasn't a choice. And you may think I'm insane. Like, but when you're in that position, like, I guess it really just kind of showed me what I was here to do, why I'm doing it. How much did it mean to me, really? Well, it meant a lot, because I could not think of a situation where I build a business with money that I got forsaking the values and the mission of the business. It's one thing to change a couple things around. I've been doing that since I started, but it's been towards the core values. It's been towards the mission. Finding the best possible way to lift people up so they can become the musicians that they are supposed to be. If anyone out there has any doubts about me not walking the walk, this is it. I fucking practice what I preach. And I insist that you do the same. Do not forsake your values, or your mission. Your mission as an artist is to go out and express things and tell stories and to speak for people. Find those people that need you specifically, who you are, and what you represent. It's not about becoming something else to get people. This is about doing what you have to do because there's no other way. That's why you play the music. That's why you're a musician. That's why you're a songwriter. You become the musician you are supposed to be. You create that music that is in your head, and you do not let anything get in your way. So I wrote them back and I said, that's the heart of the business. You know, I understand, but this is not what you think it is. It's 2020. Social media, content marketing 101. This is it. If you're a business in 2020 and you don't have a blog or a podcast or anything like that, doing live streaming, what the fuck are you doing online? You're wasting your time. But if that disqualifies me, then I gotta withdraw my application because I can't change this. Having this is important. Having the course it's the heart of the business. So, and I had to say no. And this seems like a really cliche thing where you would say it was the hardest decision I had to make, but it wasn't. It was the hardest no I had to say because it meant I lost a bunch of money that could have been given to me, but it wasn't a decision, and that's the important thing. You know, it showed me what I was really doing it for. But out of that, I was kind of like, okay, fuck it. Like, I don't want to rely on a bunch of money coming from someone that has that power to say, like, well, change this, 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 and this. Because it's too risky. We can't have you speaking your mind. Turns out I don't like that. I don't want to be told that. So I'm sure a few of you are yelling at your TV. Well, why don't you just do one of those things? Do a I don't know, one of them Patreon things. So that's what we're gonna do. Today we will officially launch our Patreon page for M-File Music Theory. You can go and you can donate, and I'll bring up the website here in a second, but you can go to patreon.com/mfile music theory. I'll put a link on the description here. I was considering doing something Patreon for a little while, but I guess this is just no time like the present, right? So here's what we got. I'll pull this page up. So we've got our page, patreon.com, mfile music theory. You can come sign up. Oh, so many things that we're going to be doing. Isn't that amazing? So we're podcasting, we're doing live streams, we're writing blog articles, we're making YouTube videos, we got books, and of course there's a membership website in the works, hopefully before Christmas. So your membership levels here, we've got just a $5 donation every month. That's just general support. And it takes a lot to keep everything running on schedule and maintaining any kind of quality. So any bit of support is obviously enormously appreciated. We would love to have some people just pitch in some money and get some more content made. For $10 a month, This tier votes in polls that will decide content topics to be covered on our podcasts here and future videos for the YouTube channel. So you can get early access to content, patron only voting power, which, you know, $10 a month, you get to tell me what to do, but not in like a you have to give up your values kind of way. And so we've got a goal here. Once we can get to $500 a month, we will unlock the very special third tier, which is $30 a month. Once we reach this goal, you can access content where you join me in the studio and watch me write and record music. You can see me applying practically what I teach. You can watch me go through the creative process in special content that will only be accessed by you at this tier. So you join me in the studio. That sounds like fun. And you can watch me attack musical problems as they happen and watch how much of it really comes down to inspiration and how much of it comes down to having the tools and knowing when to make the right choices or which choice is the most right for the situation that you want to go for. So I'm pretty excited about this. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I don't want to have to. Like, it kind of sucks that I got to ask people for this, but in a way, it's you are paying to access the content. And there's very special content that you get if you pay for. So we appreciate and love the people that want to be a part of this community. And we know that there's more people out there that are looking for something like this and just haven't found us yet. So our mission right now is to just expand, get our ducks in a row, and start finding people. So if you know people that are scratching their heads about music, send them our way. And I'm not saying make them buy our shit. I'm saying join the community. Come see what the party's about. Like, we want to talk about music. We want to talk about songwriting. And we want to learn from each other. Like, my goal is that we get enough of an active community going that I'm learning from you guys. I get to hear your stories. I get to hear your successes. I get to hear about your approaches to things and maybe some of the questions that you ask in like the groups or, you know, the Patreon thing. What do you want to cover? That's going to get my brain turning in a way that I'm solving problems in a new way, and it unlocks stuff in my brain. Like, that would be the ultimate. Just this amazing community of people who want to become the musicians that they are supposed to be. Make that impact. Create the music that you want to hear in your head. So again, that website is patreon.com/mfilemusictheory. And go check it out. It's launched officially right now. So that's all from that one. I also wanted to quickly mention, funny, that I was going to start with a little of this to explain. The last 2 weeks, the interviews and the podcasts have sounded like shit. And I apologize for that. I didn't want to bring it up, really, because it wasn't until after, when I was editing videos, that I was like, what is going on? Why is everything different? I went through all my settings on my plugins. I was messing with the board. I switched every cable. Like, I was trying different connections and everything, and I was going mental. I did so much post-processing on the videos to try and fix the sound, and it was still like garbage. So again, from the bottom of my heart, I apologize that the quality is not where it should be. But I figured it out. My son, that little toddler monster running around. He likes to grab this microphone and pull it down and sing into it. He holds it up to his face and he yells and sings and he looks at me. He's like, Dad, just like you. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. It's fucking adorable. It'd be more adorable if it wasn't like hundreds of dollars of equipment that he's like totally destroying. But he turned the microphone backwards. I got this Audio Technica AT 2020. If you look up the picture, got a little fluff in my nose there. It's like someone tickling me. Almost sneezed. Sorry. Yeah, if you look up a picture, like you see the type of mic that it is, but it has a front and a back, and it's labeled clearly. So I was messing around with the cables, and I finally looked, and what was front was actually back. So I have a noise gate and a compressor and everything, like plugins operating on my microphone. And so I'm speaking into the back. It's opening the noise gate, but it's collecting more room sound, and it's collecting like the peripherals of my voice, like only side voice. So it was sounding really hollow. There was like a ring to it, and it was a lot of because it was just struggling to find the noise. So the noise gate would open, the compressor would bring up the volume, and it was a mess. And it really pissed me off because I couldn't figure out what it was. And it was because I was speaking into the goddamn microphone backwards. So you can thank my son. Thank you, boy. Messing my shit up. But I fixed it. I did a quick test right before I went live, and hopefully it sounds better today. So I appreciate your patience. So that brings us to our interview portion, tra-la-la, part 2 of our 2-part series with the illustrious Adam Carter of the Human Race, Orbit, and Melodic Pixel Media, talking more about the biz.
I was thinking, well, that's one thing that has been in the back of my mind, because it's like I want to, like, as I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start making for everything, and then now it's like, well, now I don't get to play in front of people for the next like 3 years, you know.
I'll tell you, I've been playing all the time at home. I'm learning songs that I never would have learned because I'm learning them for me. So obscure, weird shit. And I'm recording all the time and I'm putting it out there so I can play. My voice is doing crazy good things now because I'm singing into a condenser mic. So I'm all these little nuances. And then I get on stage last night and I did a good job and people liked it. But it's weird that thing that was just effortless before, whether I was at a show or we were at Zyla's or I was busking, just this connection, it was like I'm a little bit lost because that's a muscle that you stop using it and it goes away.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. There was a reason why, like, people considered me like the front man. Like, there's very much in away from just performing the music and away from like the basics of just like being physically aware and doing things on stage, there is that amount of like interaction and like conversing, but not just with words. There's a conversation with your energy that has to be kind of happening, and that doesn't happen on a regular day. So like going about and doing my things really, like, or maybe on such a small scale that it's not really noticeable.
Yeah.
It's like when I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going for a little hike. I haven't really been out of the house in months, but I'll hike the stairs and it'll be fine. And then I feel like I'm going to have a fucking heart attack and my shins are screaming.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, right. My body's in atrophy because I haven't been performing. I've been doing this. So it's the same thing with a live performance. Like I can't even imagine what it would be like, because you're so excited to get up there and do it. And then it's like, okay, it's go time. And you're just looking and you're like, the fuck is this?
Much like Lee Reed and Wax Mannequin, like I don't script any banter. I get in my zone, I get up there, and I just like let it flow. And it's real. And when I'm in it, I can trust it. And I look back at some of the things I say, and I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? That was great. And people connected with it, and it just, and that's the type of thing that, like, last night I did it, but it wasn't effortless. It was more work to try and foster a thing that when you're doing it all the time, it's just there and you can trust it.
Yeah.
And you know that when you were just bouncing off the walls and like you just incite these people to like ecstasy by pulling something out of the back portion of your brain that it was not the plan, but it connects.
Yeah, there's more than a few people said that our performance at the saloon at Come Together a few years ago brought them to tears. And it was just like, I gave this speech before one of the tunes about like, you know, don't make any regrets. You gotta like, well, for life is a test, right? It was a little speech and told the story about how like I wrote that tune and had a really shitty conversation with my cousin, and they were like, you're a musician, like I feel so bad for you, you're never gonna have nice things and you're never gonna do it, all this shit. And I'm just like, okay, I'm writing a song about this is fun.
You are.
Yeah.
You know what the craziest shit about that is? There's this duality. Oh, you're a musician, you're never gonna have nice things, you're poor. Oh, you got dreams, one day you'll make it, one day you'll get on the radio. And at the other side, you got these people that are like, I don't know how you do it. I wish you could do this thing. I could never do that. And I'm like, you know how we did it? We didn't stop. Yeah. That's it. It's like you're in high school, you pick up a guitar, maybe you want to get girls, maybe you want to be cool. And like all these people do it. And 90% of the people along the way, at some point, they just stop.
Yep.
And it's like everybody who keeps going gets really good because they didn't stop. It's like, you could do this. All you got to do is do it. And a lot of people have a problem with that. They it's a gift. Okay.
Yeah, they
maybe
explain it away. The rationalization of giving up on their own dreams.
Yeah. The gift that my parents exposed me to great music. And it's a gift that they supported me and allowed me to have terrible sounding band practices in my basement all the time. That was a gift. But everything else is perseverance and work and just doing it and failing upward.
Failing upward, absolutely.
And it's not like, oh, I'm a musician and one day you're walking out there and you're playing along to people that are losing their shit because you're amazing. It's like, do you know the game Go?
I do, yes.
So Go is like this old Eastern strategy game. And you could think of it like kind of like chess, but like way harder. And there was this quote, and I don't know who said it, but it's like, how do you get good at Go? You lose your first 100 games as quick as you possibly can. You're not going to win. You're going to lose. But by losing, you're learning. You're playing. That's the same with songwriting. I used to work with, I was a Can Rock guy in the 90s, so I saw Moist and I'm Mother Earth and all these people.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got to work with them later on. And I booked Jeff Pierce, who was the bassist for Moist. He had a solo project, and I booked him, and I did a press kit, and he listened to my music. I had an album, and I was like, what do you think? What do you think? And it stuck with me. He was like, yeah, it's pretty good, you know, but you just got to keep on writing songs, man. Because it's the same thing as Go. It's like you have to write as many songs as possible to get that shit out. Yeah. So that you, one, learn how to write and learn all the tricks, but two, you're not just spitting garbage cliches and you're writing something that's worth listening to. You're not just going to sit down and write your first song and it's going to be a hit and it's going to be like this revolutionary, life-changing thing. You're probably going to use these cliche words like fade away, and you're probably, you know, everybody has old songs that abuse, you know, just like, I look back at those old tunes and I'm like, what was I thinking? And it was like I was learning.
Yeah. And that there, you need to have a bit of the process to like give yourself permission to just kind of suck, and give yourself permission to be learning and be a student of it. I think there's a big part of learning music that we kind of try and sweep the student part under the rug. But that's a huge part of the responsibility of learning music. Because obviously you're learning. Be a fucking student. You know, it's like, well, no, I want to have fun with music. Music's about playing. It's like, you don't get to play until you learn the fucking rules, man.
Yeah, then break them all you want. But like, if you want to play soccer, great. You're not going to be able to play soccer unless you learn how to kick a ball, right?
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You have to learn the rules of the game.
You learn the rules, and then you get to fucking take dives in the World Cup like everybody else. But you gotta do your time first.
Yeah.
Same with basketball. Basketball, you gotta learn the rules, and then, you know,
and then
you get an NBA, and nobody calls traveling on you anymore. So
that's exactly it. And the other thing, and I struggle with this myself because unlike you and your crew, I was mostly self-taught. I had a great music teacher, a great guitar teacher in high school. And since I could already play, he taught me more. So I learned the theory. You were just talking about modes. I know about modes. But I didn't go to post-secondary boot camp where I learned, like, I understand this and I can sit down and I can do some math and I can figure shit out and I understand it. But all you guys, it's there. You just know it because you drilled it. I did different things. And I consider myself a little bit more of a songwriter. But when I'm jamming with Scotty Mack and Dan Krawchuk and all these guys,
Orbit,
Jocelyn, we're doing a song that we've just learned. There's 5 different crazy parts. They're in different time signatures. There's key changes. And then we're like, yeah, that works. Let's do that in this key. And then they just play it. And we've smoked like 20 joints. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, hang on a sec, guys. And they make me better. I've always played with people that made me better. But I look at that with this sort of wide-eyed, like there's such freedom in just trusting yourself because you put in the time to just know that. And then you can perform.
Yeah.
I can practice solo and I can shred it. And I can play it and record it and it'll be great. But it's like, okay, I sat in with Mustache Hat once on guitar.
Killer band. Love those guys.
And they're killing it. And I sit in and I could play and I listen to the song a few times and it comes time for my solo and I'm just like, meh, and it was garbage. I'm not that type of player. And you can't be everything. A lot of those type of players are players and they're not songwriters. And it's like, I'm a songwriter. This is what I do. But I still look at you guys all wide-eyed with just being like that knowledge is just there when you need it because you put in the work.
Yeah. The only time I was ever scared on stage with the Belays was when we did our HPO indie series because we were playing
the classical stuff.
Fusioned classical tunes in a belay style with these like orchestral masterminds. It was nuts, but they were terrified playing our music.
Yes, they like, your music, crazy. Then you played their music.
Yeah, like Stravinsky's Firebird Suite, and there was some Dvorak Symphony from the New World. We played some Lord of the Rings stuff, and it was awesome. Like we got to pick the tunes, but it was like I was shitting my pants. It was fucking crazy.
Yeah, man. But you got to push yourself, right? Like doing that for you guys was probably in some ways similar to me being all wild-eyed. Like you guys are playing with musicians there. They're not entertainers or performers. They're like professional, regimented orchestral musicians, and that is a whole new world.
It's very different, but it was such an awesome eye-opening experience. And like, you know, just before even the first rehearsal, I was like, I'm a better musician for having to go through and learn these tunes and put this shit together. And like, it was a lot of fun. But like, that was the only time I was like scared, but I knew it was going to be fine. But like, there were so many shows where it should have been a train wreck, you know, like again, the famous or infamous set at Come Together, like, I mean, that should, if we were to just list out everything that was happening, it should have been a train wreck. But there's just so much more that went into the preparation and the musicianship that it doesn't matter when someone has to run off the stage without telling anybody to go throw up somewhere.
You just cover it.
We did like a 5-minute jam.
I was there.
He ran on stage.
I didn't even know he was gone.
Yeah, he picked it right up and jumps into a tune with us, and it was magic. It just made it everything better.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, but that's not to say you should be an asshole and party your face off at a show. It's the fact that there was a lot of we were in the right place. That's a big thing.
Because the audience was on your side.
Yes.
Because you were incredibly well rehearsed and kind of feel invincible. You know, you're partying, it's your moment. So it's like at that point, anything that can go wrong, it's fine, you'll figure it out. But if you were playing a club in London, Ontario, opening for a band that was from there, and no one in the crowd knew you guys, and people are just hanging around, and that were to happen, that's a completely different story.
Well, it's about calculated risk. I mean, we had said, like, no partying, we're headlining, this is a big deal. But we're at a hippie festival, so, like, things got crazy. But it's about taking those calculated risks of, like, you know, we knew we were safe, we knew we were well rehearsed, we knew the set inside out, and we have a long history of improvising and jamming and playing off of that and being able to read each other as a group. Like, that's something that's really, really important, that doesn't even necessarily require that you know everybody in the group, but there's like a part of being self-aware that allows you to read other people in like that musical
type. Well, it's a conversation, right?
Yeah.
Like I used to host the open mic at Homegrown when Dave Gould was away at a gig. So like I'd be jamming with people, playing whatever instrument at the end. And I preferred to play the instruments I like playing the bass or the drums because it wasn't the things I did all the time. But people had such a good time there because it wasn't just like some dudes getting up there and shredding a pentatonic scale. It's like, we're not allowed to play songs. Don't go up there and be like, okay, we're going to cover Heart-Shaped Box. It's like, no, play. What key? No, play. And everybody listens. And everybody, you know, you figure it out as you go, but it's a conversation. And for me, that is fun. And that is something that I don't care how good you are if you've been a bedroom player. You have to play with people to learn. You have to be able to intuit and make eye contact. Always blew me away when I would see Flat Five and Kurt Tweedle's on the guitar and they're doing these crazy jams. And then he would just like, or he'd give it somebody a nod. And then they would just all know this is, okay, we're going here now. Masterful.
They were always psycho with that. It was like intuition at that point. It would go faster than light.
Yes.
They were so good at those signals in Flat Five. Like every time I would see that band, it would make it a game to try and catch it. And like be just like standing there like,
yeah.
Fuck, I missed it. Like, who called that? You know,
like, danger there. Like they have some structure, but like, okay, we're gonna go off over here now, get a little dangerous, and then you don't necessarily know how long something's gonna happen or what's gonna happen, and you see the musicians on stage communicating, and they're having fun.
Yeah.
And that, I think you mentioned this before, but like, no one wants to go see a band on stage that is not having fun? I don't care how good you are.
If they're just playing by the numbers, like you could have just sat at home and listened to the record, right?
Yeah. Or if they're pissed off at each other because they've been on tour, or if they're upset because no one's at the show, or whatever it is, no one wants to see that. If you have to be up there, you got to be having fun, and then people will follow.
Absolutely. Well, you got to set the tone, and you got to take the lead. It's your show, and you're leading this experience, this excursion into your fantasy world that you can create with your music. So, like, fucking do it, man. Like, grab the leash. Yeah, here we go, kids. Let's go. We're going over here. It's going to get weird.
I like it when it gets weird. I can understand there's a lot of people that want to see things that are like exactly the same as the record. And that is often, for some people, a metric of how good a band is. So they performed it exactly the same as the record. But then you go see that band X number of times and you get the same set exactly the same as the record every time, and you never have to see them again. Yeah. I want to see a band take some like left turns and reinterpret some songs and make a mistake and recover and just get weird, because I can go home and listen to the record.
Yeah. That's a mantra. That's
a mantra.
Like,
let's get weird.
Get that shit on a t-shirt, man.
Yeah.
So we're at about...
You got a t-shirt? M-File. You selling those, eh?
Yeah.
How much are they?
I think it's like 25.
And where can you get them?
Well, we've got a link on the website. They are available through Teespring. But if you check out mfile.ca, I believe we've got a merch section, and it'll take you right over there. You can get one of these sexy shirts. Show up to your hot date. They are fire retardant, I believe. So you're not going to go up in flames. Maybe the date will, but your shirt will make it through. Now where do you want to send some eyes and ears? You've got a couple places.
Yeah, if you go to on the old Facebox, The Human Race, which is at The Human Race Sings, all of my songs of the day go on there. They also go on my YouTube, which is I think it's The Human Race Music. You just search for The Human Race Hamilton Adam, it comes up.
I'll put all the appropriate links up for you.
And then if you ever need like video work, album artwork, if you ever need things like help with promoting and press releases and doing an album, and like I don't know how to do anything, go to melodicpixelmedia.com, and like that's sort of my one man sort of jack of all trades. Like, let's come up with a plan and let's do it.
Yeah, and you're the guy to talk to because you've been doing it for years, and
I did it for myself, right? And then I made all the mistakes on myself, and now it's like I'm helping other people.
Works in music promotion, not so good with surgery.
No, don't hire me to like...
I made all the mistakes on myself, and now I don't have too much body left. It's all cut off.
I've got it that way. But seriously, there's been mistakes, man. I'm sure you got some nightmare stories.
For sure.
Leaving my guitars in different cities. We went on tour once, and we got our we left our wallet, our kitty. I think it was Nova Scotia or somewhere. Jeez. And we were staying at some guy's house, and we left it there and realized it the next day and went back, and he'd spent like half of it on drugs.
Oh my God.
We managed to get half of it back, but we didn't really know this guy, and it was like, oh no! And yeah, never make that mistake again.
Well, wallet chains come in handy, I guess. That's
valuable lessons. But that's part of the issue that's probably gone now. We don't get paid in cash at gigs, right?
Yeah.
Like, part of the discussion I've had with some promoters is that gigs are going to be done. The band will manage the door and have their own like Stripe account or whatever, so that the payment isn't even going to the venue on like digital because tax reasons.
Right.
And the band handles that. And as much as I love cash, because I'm also a street performer, I busk all summer, which is why I'm hurting this year. It's like, I just love the interaction with people.
Yeah.
But people aren't going to be using cash anymore. So you have to have that infrastructure available as a band to be able to take people's tappity tap tap.
Yeah.
And I suck at that.
It's so much easier to get merch sold too, like getting a shirt or a record sold when you have a debit card, because the cash they have on hand is going to be used for beers. Like that's it. So it's like, oh, well, I'll just tap into your savings and take my record home with you.
Give it a tap. It doesn't hurt. It won't hurt until you get your bill.
Yeah, you go buy a couple drinks and then you wander over here and I'll schmooze you and do my car salesman spiel and you'll buy like 6 albums.
Yeah, why not? And I think that like that will happen again. Like I really believe in, if you're going to release anything physical these days, you have to release vinyl. Because I go to enough shows where I see people buying 2-3 records, physical vinyl, because they're attached to that. No one buys CDs. No one wants to buy a download card. You know, people will Spotify you, that's fine. But for me, like, I got, let's see if we can show you over here. I got all these records here. And I got all the local bands. Because when I'm at a show and it's like, oh, I can take you home and listen to you on vinyl, like, I'll buy that. I'll feel good about it. And that, for me, this was going to be my big year for, like, I was going to record a new album with the band. I was going to get everything set up. I was going to release a vinyl, which I've never done. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, no, we're going to rethink that. Because, you know, you guys, you were telling the stories too. It's like, you know, you play the gigs, you get a band fund, you save all the money, you're going to put it into this thing, and then it's gone. And what do you do? And that's what it sort of feels like this year in terms of like the gigs that were lined up, that were sure things that were going to pay for all this.
Yeah, that's the fund. That's
they're gone.
Now the plan is shifted. Like, you got to do something else because that shit still has to happen. Yes. How do you do it? That's the new adventure, I guess. But
well, according to Spotify, you know, artists they got to be releasing albums every 6 months now. They can't just release an album every 2 years. Release, and then get your 180th of a cent per play.
Yeah, it's bad. It's like 0.0001 or something, and it's not even guaranteed that it's going to be like a universal, like, because the record labels are collecting different royalties based on secret deals they've made. So it's all bullshit, but
you can't expect anything.
Just what a cock. Like, honestly,
jump through the screen, kill him.
I get the heart of sort of what he's trying to say, but it was just so wrong. Absolute garbage presentation on the wording and everything, like just so insensitive and out of touch with the reality of how it works.
Yeah. Well, you were saying, you know, content is king. You have to keep writing. You have to keep making songs. You wrote all these songs. You needed new songs. You wrote songs. You put in the work. That's one thing. And that draws from, like, you know, your creativity and your well of experience. But let's say you have all these songs. You still have to go into a studio, pay some people. You got to bring in the band and have time to rehearse it right. And you got to mix it and master it. Oh, you're releasing a vinyl. You got to master it for vinyl. You got to hire someone like me to set up your artwork and to be like, oh yeah, just do that every year, twice a year. That's how you make money. It's like, where are all these funds coming from?
Yeah.
Where all these musicians can afford to just go into the studio once or twice a year and release a proper quality album.
Yeah. Weaponized Magic was $12,000. And like, we got lucky on a lot of the things. Like, that should have been a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
You know, like, I can't afford to do that every 6 months. And like, that took a lot of work and fundraising to get that money in the first place, you know? So it's like, I don't know where that money's supposed to come from if it's not having that amount of time to make it.
Yeah, and I think you guys did it right, because you did a pre-order thing, right? Or like a Kickstarter or something. So
yeah.
you to say, okay, there is interest, so we're not necessarily wasting our time, because we've all done that thing where you order 2,000 CDs, sell a couple hundred,
sitting in a box,
1,800 CDs in the basement.
Well, you get a deal.
Yeah, you do.
The savings, you know.
You have beer coasters for life.
Yeah.
And I do.
Oh,
but,
Jay still, years and years after the First Time Fallen record, they had so many copies of that record, and it's like amazing. I miss that band so much because they
was
like.
I toured with when we got our shit stolen. It was Kirby from First Time Fallen.
Oh yeah.
And, I used to listen to those guys, the all ages shows. They were great. Yeah.
They were so good, and they put that album out, and then the band just dissolved.
Yeah.
So he was all, like, anytime a new person would come over to the house,
Have a
he'd be
record.
like, "Hey, you want a CD? Here, take 3." He'd just like hand them out. But then the next time you'd see that person, they'd be like, "This is amazing. Like this, I can't stop listening to this album." Yeah. So I mean, I guess it's good viral marketing in that sense. Just using CDs like business cards, like that's kind of all they're worth anymore, right?
Paper sleeves, and I would design a cover and print it out on my like color printer and glue it to the sleeve and burn a CD and take a stack to Dr. Disc and leave them on the counter and be like, when people come in here and buy stuff, they could take them for free. And then you'd be on the old internet message boards, or like, you know, when you used to have websites and they would have guest books?
Yeah.
People would review them and they'd actually listen to them and comment on them. And there was something about that feeling of like, do it yourself. It's like, we don't have a label. We made this thing. We just put it in out there and people actually listened to it. That went away. You know, when I was at Homegrown, I have stacks and stacks of CDs that I could never even listen to. Someone would give me a CD. I would go home and look at the website and listen to it online and throw the CD in a pile. Because those days are over. But there's something really nice about like people caring enough. It's like, here's a CD and you're actually going to listen to it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, your Weaponized Magic has been in my car now for 2 weeks. So I'm driving around in the summer and it's making me feel good.
Well, I'm glad it's still able to do that. Like have the intent and the magic that we put into it like actually work.
Yeah.
You know, like that was it. It was like all the ideas and all of the values and the mission of the album was like, it's party time, it's feel good, and like just like that album. You know, like for me, I think I still have it over here. Like Chicago Transit.
We were talking about that, yeah.
Yeah. And you know, this album for me is always you throw it on and you just instantly get that whatever French word you were saying at the beginning, Franzals or Frankensteins or whatever.
You get the tingle in the back of your spine.
Yeah, the frenulums. Yeah.
Yeah, the frenulums. That's the band name.
Frenulums.
Like it.
But that was kind of like the guiding principle of like, we want the album to do that for other people.
Yes.
So to have, you know, like 3 years later now, and people are still every once in a while like, man, I just found that album, threw it on, and it just hits you like a ton of bricks. It's like, fuck yeah. I'm glad those bricks are staying sharp.
They are. Good driving music. I'll give you that. It's like, yeah, I'm driving.
You'll get to where you're going about 15% faster. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, when I get tickets, I'm going to send you 15%. I'll send you a bill for 15%.
Well, I mean, my partnership with the band has been dissolved for a few years, so you can take it up with them. They'll.
Okay, so what? There were 5 of you in the band, so 15% divided by 5. You can afford that. What's up with you and these tunes you've been writing? There was that one you released that I said sounded like drugs.
Yeah.
Is that?
And I was like, mission accomplished.
Yeah. Is that something that you are going to be performing live, or was that just an experiment for you to see what you could do in your downtime?
For the most part, like, obviously my heart is always on stage. I am very much a performer.
You're a dad.
The likelihood of doing it in the immediacy wasn't going to be happening anyway. So a lot of time was spent like putting together ideas and trying to figure out, like, I just need to be making music, because I wasn't, and I didn't have a reason to, which, funny enough, like, you kind of just stop, and you don't mean to, but when it was Belays, there was a reason, right? I got to write a new tune and throw this in. We got to, we're doing this. We're doing that.
We gotta go.
Yeah, there's a reason to, and you just think like, well, I'll just always be writing music no matter what. And that's not always the case. Like, you kind of have to give yourself a reason to do it. And that changes like the psychological approach to it. So it was like, okay, I'm going to start this, and I want to just be making music again. And there's a few demos. I think I've got like 10 demos. So I got to kind of work them out a little bit. There's one that's like almost ready to go, but I put it out. It was like an experiment just to get the system together.
Okay.
And then I had to like, okay, now I got to focus on this, put this show together, get this system going, working on programs, everything like that. But Laser Monk is an ongoing thing. It's not like a one and done. So
yeah, well, that's good to hear.
Keep your eyes and ears peeled.
Did you mix that all yourself? That was all just at home?
That was everything in this room.
Testament, to just doing it.
Yeah. Well, I knew a little bit about sound, and I've been very lucky to be able to sit either right beside or peering over the shoulder of some really, really talented motherfuckers.
Oh, yeah.
Like Phil Spencer, Josh Hanf, and Lance. He was like, we got to do a couple sessions with Lance at Humber. Schliebler. I apologies, I can't remember his last name, but he was like the go-to guy at Humber for a lot of those sessions that people were doing, and I was very blessed to be able to work with him a couple times and just like sit and watch and ask questions and things, and then it was like, okay, well, I got to do it. Like, I got to just figure it out and tweak things and make it work, and it came out a lot better than I thought it was going to, which is like a thing where it's like, don't be afraid.
Yep.
Like, what if it sucks? Well, you can not do it,
or
and then you don't do it.
Like, that's the thing, like, with something like that. Well, what if it sucks? It's like, you got the stems. You could give it another go. You could bring a friend that knows more than you, or someone could listen to it and tell you why it sucks. They'll be like, yo, your mids, man, cut your mids and it fixes all your problems. And you're like, oh, I didn't even think of that. But simple tricks. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I got that out. It happened. It exists. Throw like 9 more down the pipe. And with the idea of like releasing every couple weeks and making an album. Yeah. Piece by piece. That's really the only plan I can think of right now, because having that time and effort and energy and money to put into one big project all at once for that amount of time, it's not there.
Well, I would even recommend, and most people have caught on, but even in this prior to COVID, it doesn't make sense to put all your time into one album and release that album. Like we were talking when you were doing some Alto Belays promo, it's like you have things lined up so that you can release them over time and get more press, because it's all about immediacy. Yeah. So it's like, I would like to do a thing where I have an album that I've recorded. It's taken so much time to do. And then I release a song and a video. And then later I release a song and a video. And later I release a song and a video. And then you can buy the whole album. I'm fine. But like stretch it out, because you're putting so much money into it. And you're going to get pressed for 4.5 minutes when you release that album, and then it's over.
Yeah.
Then it's like back to the drawing board. Gotta do the next one. No.
Yeah, you got to milk it. And by that point, you know, you put the time into like the release of a song, the release of a video, and you do that 3 times.
Yes.
Now there's engagement and investment on the part of the audience and the listener, right? It's like they now, when an album finally comes out, they've gone through 3 of these journeys with you.
Yes.
So when this comes, you're like, not, well, I don't really know if that's worth putting the money
Like,
into.
no, I like those tunes. I want these other ones. It's like, okay.
There's more. I can bring it home. I can lean it up on the wall and just stare at it for a while. Like,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
okay.
That's my goal in life, man. If nothing else, I will release a vinyl. I will frame it. I will put it on my wall. I will say I did this. And then I will dissolve into the universe.
I will become the 5th dimension and
You
just...
can get your ashes printed into a vinyl record.
I think that would be something I would
And I
want.
think that would be a great way to go. But for me, when I was probably 1999 or 2000, we were recording our first record. And when we got it pressed and it's shrink wrapped with all the artwork and it's a CD that you can buy, that was a feeling of, I did this. We have a CD. It is real. You can listen to it. And that was back when people bought CDs. So it meant something. Mm-hmm. Now, CD's a coaster. So you want to chase that dragon? The only way to do it is to release a vinyl.
Yeah.
You know, that's the echelon for me. It's like, I want full circle. Listening to vinyl when I was a kid, dropping that needle down. It's like, I just want to do that once. I will make the money, save the money, pay the money. I will do whatever I got to do to get that done once I can get in a room together and jam with my guys.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we made Weaponized Magic to be a vinyl. Like, it was always planned out that it was going to be vinyl, and then we just never got around to it.
Yeah.
Like, I've been talking with Bruder and Jordan, and like, because Jordan was just like, man, when's the last time you listened to Weaponized Magic? I was like, probably like last year. I found some files for it on my computer, and he was like, me and Bruder listened to it like 2 times in the car driving up to Port or something like that. And he's just like, it was so, like, I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud of that. And I'm like, yeah, like, we should be. You know, it was a really good record. And I still think there's a possibility. I still think that there would be a possibility to make that into a vinyl. Oh.
I will buy it for $30. Let me see where my housemate was putting on the blender, so I was escaping.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
And I will convince 10 other people to buy it for $30. And then we get all of those other 10 people to convince 10 other people to buy it for $30. And then you're done. You're good to go.
Well, it'll cover the cost, and then we'll have a bunch more ready to go. So
yeah, I'm just having a vitamin cigarette. I was supposed to quit, but it's been one of the only things that's been getting me off through the COVID. That and my garden. You see that shit?
Oh, it's beautiful.
I got tomato plants that are 7 feet tall over there.
Holy shit. What have you been feeding them?
People. Neighbors.
Yeah,
stray neighbors. Just
I knew I shouldn't have showed you Little Shop of Horrors.
Anyways, I'm cool to continue talking as long as you want. I just want to make sure that there's nothing important that we haven't touched on, because we've been all over the place, man.
But that's kind of the point.
It's been fun.
Like, there's a handful of things that I'm like, I want to get to, but they will happen. Like, I'll seize my moments when they come around, because there's a really good chance it just comes up in conversation anyway.
Yeah.
And I like just having a conversation and not being like, so when you were 12, like, tell me about this, you know?
I
Like,
was way less interesting when I was 12. Let me tell you.
Well, like, because I know the people, like, I've already got a bit of the research on, like, what they're expert on or what they'd be really good talking about.
Yeah.
Push that out of them.
Well,
But
it's
I
just
think,
like we're shooting the shit. We've had these conversations on my couch.
Yeah.
There's no camera. So.
Well, it's good that it's like, this is a dedicated hour and a half, whatever, to just get it all out there and be a concentrated vitamin cigarette shot, except no cigarette. So I don't know. It's a bad metaphor. The coffee's worn off. I've been up way too. We got a little inebriated yesterday at
me too. Yeah.
the celebration of life for Justine's uncle. But it was a really beautiful thing. Just like all the good tears, you know, like the.
Well, I'm glad that it was one of the good ones. Those are hard, and you don't always know how they're gonna play out. Especially nowadays, because like I don't know what's going on now, but for the longest time, you couldn't even go say goodbye and pay respects to somebody because of the virus, right? That's the extended grief we're all going through in the world. It's like this thing's been happening and it's prolonged, and there's no form of closure. It's open-ended. And so how do we deal? Like I make music and smoke too many cigarettes. I'm supposed to quit. That was going to be my COVID goal. Now I'm like, maybe I'll just write another song.
I mean, it's kind of inspiring to see, like, we're very lucky to have so many creative, talented, musical or artistic or otherwise people in our lives, and seeing how they're using it as both a coping mechanism, but also like the output to help other people cope.
Yes.
To give them something to deal with, you know, like it's a really amazing thing to see the resilience of the art community that we've been able to surround ourselves with, and just being like, free hugs, like, just get it out there, feel good, you know, like it's crazy. But
people have been really good at lifting each other up, and we need that. What I got last night, which was the best thing, and it was like, there were a few people at this show that knew me and the other performers, and there were a bunch of randoms that were just out. And this one guy comes up to me after, and he's like, I don't know him. And that song you sang, the song is called The Future. And the chorus is, we're living in the future now. And he's like, we're living in the future now. And he was like, ah! And I was like, this just makes the gig. That right there, I don't take your $52 that I made and throw it away. That's because you write a line, and I played a few covers to please the crowd too. But like one of the lines I wrote, stuck with some guy, and I was like, wow, thank you. That's fulfilling.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
I think first, before the one thing, before we take off, because I'm about to melt. It's like 35 degrees outside, and we got the lights going on, and I'm just like, so is there anything new and exciting happening in the orbit of Orbit?
We are talking right now about getting together and rehearsing soon.
Cool.
In a kind of socially distanced, different way than we have in the past, because there's 5 of us and we all sing, and we would all smoke like 7 joints and get sweaty. We're going to figure out a way to do it it was at my place, which is a small rehearsal room. We're going to do it somewhere else. And Dan, I don't know if you know Dan, he's a Song Factory. You should talk to him on one of these.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, he's got songs and songs and songs. And all of his songs are like, he's got like 5 songs that are part of a mini saga that's like a Star Wars type. We've already done 2 of them. The one of them is about a man that gets transformed into a moose. And he's like an anthropomorphized moose moving through the world. There's one where there's this crystal that this guy finds, that there's 2 halves to the crystal, and he searches the world and puts them together, and the magic happens. It's Star Wars fantasy shit. And he is a never-ending well of creativity. So I'm going to walk into this thing and he's going to be like, yeah, this one's easy. And it's going to have like 27 parts and, and it'll be a pleasure when we can figure out how to actually play it. But no gigs. We were going to do Come Together in May. And then when it was postponed, we were like, no.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to the one in September to play it safe. And then I think it might be time. We've been talking now. We've been a band for like 2 years. We have 2 sets of music. So what we'll probably do is start rehearsing and then figure out a way to record an album. And then I will convince all these people to do a vinyl.
Absolutely.
We're going to have to experience Orbit. Ooh, it's got to spin. It's got to orbit.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It's like,
yeah.
So final thought, because now we're living in the world of video conferenced music performances. So I think one important thing that you mentioned briefly was shot composition.
Yeah, we were talking about this.
So tell everybody out there in music land your tips for properly framing a shot and making sure it's going to work.
Okay, so number one is you learn the rules and then you break them. So these tips aren't always applicable, but learning them is super important. And I can show you now because this is in my hand. Oh, that's not right. Let's do it like this. You don't want to do this.